Okay, yesterday we saw a brisa, two brises. One that said if you maybe get on a boat in Eretz Yisrael, it's like maybe in Eretz Yisrael, and one is like Chutz Laretz. So in other words, the Havamina of the Gemara was that you're speaking about a boat that's in Eretz Yisrael proper, a boat that's in Eretz Yisrael proper. And according to one opinion, if the get is written on the boat, you'd have to say b'fanei nechtav, because it's like Chutz Laretz. And the other one you would not have to, because it's like Eretz Yisrael. We wanted to suggest that this machloikis between the two brises is according to the machloikis between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan said if you're bringing off a chutz laretz in a boat, you have a boat and you have planted on the boat, you have offer. Planted on the boat, you have offer. According to the Chachamim, it will be part from Trumas and Maisa. Why? Because Pashtus, it has a din of chutz laretz. Rabbi Yehuda said we mechayev in Trumas and Maisa, right? It would be Rabbi Yehuda said it would be, excuse me, the Chachamim said what Yechayev in Trumas and Maisa, and Rabbi Yehuda said it would be Pater. It would only be Chayev if the boat is banked on the bottom. So let's go through it. Like the Chachamim, that you will be Pater. We hold that being on a boat is like being in Eretz Yisrael. Like Rabbi Yehuda, that says that you would be Pater, who says that you would be Pater. He holds like it's what it's I'm mixing this up. One more time. If you be the Chacham say, if you bring a svina, you're chayiv in Maisa, right? Good. Why? Because it's like Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, you won't have to say b'fanei nechtav. Like Rabbi Yehuda, since you be part from Maisa, it means it's like chutz laretz, and therefore you would have to say b'fanei nechtav. Or we gave a teretz that both can be according to Rabbi Yehuda, both prices. One is speaking where the boat is embanked in the bottom, death would be like Eretz Yisrael. One is speaking where it's not embanked in the bottom, but then what? It's not. It's a chutz laretz. Now the Gemara is going to go ahead and sushtel this to an otzitz knockoff. Now with sugis and shas, you have a flower pot that has earth in it, and it's knockoff. It has a hole in it. So if it's on the ground, it's going to be considered part of Eretz Yisrael because it's going to get its nutrients of Eretz Yisrael through the hole. If, however, it's ain't knockoff, then not. Here it's speaking about knockoff, but it's speaking about it's elevated. It's elevated. So the Gemara wants to sushtel now an elevated flower pot and a boat. In both cases, you have a distance between you and the ground. In the boat, it's water that is interspersing you between you and the ground. And in this case, it's the air. And we want to suggest the same machlokas by boat between the Chachamim who say you be chayiv. So atzis nakav you'd also be chayiv, right? Because we'll view it as on the ground. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says you pater, why? Because it's chutz laretz, just like the water is considered a barrier, so too the air is considered a barrier, and it's the exact same case. Suggest the Gemara the following. Let's see, we're on Zion Amid base. Amrab Zera, Atzitz Nakov, and Atzitz that has a hole in it. Hamunach Agabe Yisedes, that's lying on top of elevated pegs, so off the ground. So Banul Machloikis, this will come into the Machloikis between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. Like the Chachamim would say you be chayiv, Trumas Maisa by the boat would say the same thing. Despite the fact the water is the barrier, the air is the barrier, it's not a problem. It's an Eretz Yisrael. And let Rabbi Yehuda know that the water is what is a problem and it's considered a barrier. So who then the airspace will be considered a barrier. And now, once you understand that, the Gemara will destroy that understanding. Amar Rabbi, says Rabbi, Dil Malahi, Nefshanit. Maybe it's not like that. Ad kan like Rabbi Yehuda Hasam over what by Ela B'Svina by the boat Hasuya Levroyach. You know why by the boat it's not considered part of Eretz Yisrael? Again, the half meaning of the Gemara was Salkadait that they were speaking about a boat that the water's in Eretz Yisrael. You know why it's not considered part of Eretz Yisrael? Because the boat is moving. It's not stationary. So since it's moving all the time, it's not considered part of the ground. Masha Ein came the stationary otzav, despite the fact there's an airspace, I can say that what? It is part of the ground. In other words, there's another svara to mechalik between a boat and a moving boat and a stationary flower pot. So maybe Rabbi Yehuda would agree by a flower pot that it's part of Eretz Yisrael. Aval otza she'ena asay levrayach, which is not normally moving. Loi inami, I can go in the other direction with the chachamim. Ad kan like Rabbanan Hasam that is considered part of Eretz Yisrael. Ele b'svina le mafsik avira, because there is no airspace being mafsik. What's being mafsik? The Maya, because water, ki ara smichte damya. Water will be considered like what? Ara smichte will be considered like what? Like part of the ground. It'll be considered like part of the ground. In other words, I have two solid things. I have a boat, I have water, I have ground. I can view the water, the solid water, as being what? On the ground. To see if the boat is on the ground. Mashenkin, if you have air, Good. In both cases, the boat's not touching the ground and the air's not touching the ground. But by air, you don't have any connection whatsoever. So even the Chachamim would be minded by air. Maybe it's not like Eretz Yisrael. So you're not locked into saying that this machlokes is the same machlokes. If you're moving, so if you're not stationary, I can have a relationship with any place that I'm at. I'm just moving along, right? So if I'm moving along, I don't have any relationship with the ground. I'm just moving along. So how can you tell me I'm on the ground when I'm moving? When you're stationary, I'm on the ground. Says the Gemara. Okay, so therefore there's no raya. So yeah, now guys, this teretz was predicated all upon what? Again, let's go back. Let's follow the trail. Let's go back. We have two machlokes tanoim. In Eretz, one says that you bring on a svina in Eretz Yisrael, it's like bringing Eretz Yisrael. The other one, you bring in a svina in Eretz Yisrael, like chutz la'aretz. And now we suggested that it's machlokes either the Chachamim, Rabbi Yehuda, or Rabbi Yehuda Gashesh is not Gasheshas, right? And we just said it's not, and there's nothing to do with what with the flower pots. It could be a different svara. The Gemara now is going to say it's two different mitzias. It's not speaking about a svina in Eretz Yisrael. It's speaking where you are outside of Eretz Yisrael. It's speaking where you're outside of Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak Amar. Everyone would agree in the Naharis of Eretz Yisrael that it's considered part of Eretz Yisrael. This is the Yankel asked the question yesterday. What's the Tzushtel? This answers the kasha. If you're in Eretz Yisrael, there's no chilik. No b'fanei nechtav, no b'fanei nechtav. You're there. But if the water, the Havamina was, if the water's in Eretz Yisrael, you're in Eretz Yisrael. So if you're in Eretz Yisrael, you're in Eretz Yisrael. Nothing to talk about. That's not the machlokes, right? Like pligi. Ki pligi. When's the two machlokes between the brises? One Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz. B'yam Gadol. The bris is speaking b'yam Gadol. Okay, it's speaking about the Mediterranean. So just 1 second. I'm gonna bring picture. Okay, there's a map of Eretz Yisrael, and the main point is where I put on the top. You see where it says Har. Okay, Har is called Turi Amnon. Har is Turi Amnon. It's the very north part of Eretz Yisrael. Follow the coastline down, all the way down to Nachal Mitzrayim. You see I wrote down Nachal Mitzrayim? Guys, on the bottom, southwest. Got it? Southwest on the bottom, it says Nachal Mitzrayim. That is the border given in Sefer Bamidbar. Good? Now, if you draw, look, it's a shtickle. If you draw an imaginary line, I did it for you, a dot going down, you have, what happens if there's something in that area on the right of the dot, between the coastline and the dotted line? That's part of Eretz Yisrael. Even, in other words, don't say the coastline itself is Eretz Yisrael, and you want to, but even anything, let's say you had an island in that area, that would be part of Eretz Yisrael. If you had an island in that area, and therefore you would not have to say B'fanei Nachtam. However, on the left side of it, again, this is going to the Shita that Yam HaGadol is the Mediterranean Sea. There's an opinion that the Yam HaGadol is the Atlantic Ocean. But this is the opinion Yam HaGadol is the Mediterranean Sea. Well, we just go travel east. Travel west. Just follow this. You go off in a tangential sunshine. I mentioned one little thing and you're going to that. Now, listen, so on the left of that dotted line, guys, that's Chutz La'aretz, okay? So here's the teretz, okay? So we're not get a teretz yet. Now, that's the Chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion, guys, draw a line going from east to west from Har, going, let's say, towards Cyprus, right? You see that? Let's say, it's go from Har towards Cyprus, and Nachal Mitzrayim going from east to west, go out. Rabbi Yehuda says anything in that area will be Eretz Yisrael. In other words, anything that, guys, look at my hands. If my hands are like this, on my elbow is Eretz Yisrael over here. Anything that's parallel to my bicep would be Eretz Yisrael. Anything above my hand, anything below my hand would not be. So Rabbi Yehuda has a much larger area. Rabbi Yehuda holds a much larger area. So now, you have a ship that's on the left of that dot. You have a ship on the left of that dot, and it's coming to Eretz Yisrael. Good? Do you have to say b'fanei nechtam? According to the Tanakama, of course you do. Since you're on the left side of the dot, you're in Chutz La'aretz. That's the brisa that says, I maybe get, right, has to go ahead. But like Rabbi Yehuda, since you're parallel to Eretz Yisrael, going all the way, from east to west, it's parallel to Eretz Yisrael. In the Yam HaGadol, you would not have to say B'fanei Nechtam, B'fanei Nechtam. That's the Gemara. That's the Gemara we're going to see right now. It doesn't make a difference. No. The outside, you're in Eretz Yisrael. Like Rabbi Yehuda, on the left, you're in Eretz Yisrael. If you're in the Yam HaGadol, parallel to Eretz Yisrael, you're in Eretz Yisrael. So that's the machlokes with the two. That's where Rav Nachman's going to answer the kasha on the two brises. He's going to establish one brisa speaking what according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds what that you're in Eretz Yisrael. The other brisa speaking according to the Rabbanan, who say no. If you're on the left side of that imaginary line, you're in Chutz La'aretz. Let's see it inside. Says the Gemara. Six lines down. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar ben Ahoris Eretz Yisrael Kol Yam Pligi Elaki Pligi B'Yam HaGadol. Detanya Ezehu Eretz Ve'Ezehu Chutz La'aretz. Regarding this border over here, Kol Sheifa, it inclines v'yorin, it goes down. Miturei Amnoin, that was Harahar. Ulifnim, and inside Eretz Yisrael. Miturei Amnoin Elachutz on the side, on the left side of the imaginary line that I drew, will then to be Chutz La'aretz. Hanasim, the islands Shebiyam, Royin Isai Kilu Chut Mitutzach Alehem. View it as what? That there is an imaginary string. Mituri Amnoin Ad Nachal Mitzrayim. Minachod Ulefnim inside to the east of the right side of that imaginary line, Eretz Yisrael. Minachud Ulechutz on the left side of that imaginary line, Chutz La'aretz. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, the pasuk says, Kol shekeneged Eretz Yisrael, Haryuk Eretz Yisrael. In the Yam HaGadol, anything that's parallel to Eretz Yisrael is Kishmak now, right? It makes a lot of sense. Is Eretz Yisrael. Shenemar, Ugevul Yom, V'hayolachem Hayom HaGadol, V'gevul Zeh Yelachem Gevul Yom. A lot of gevuls there, right? Extra gevul. What do you do with the extra gevul? But the extra gevul is to teach me that anything that's in the yam is the gevul. The hanasim shebet sedadim and the nasim that are on the sides, then it depends. Rashi says kapluria is harar. Taisus disagrees. Ad yom akyonis is the Atlantic Ocean. Uminachum Mitzrayim the ad yom akyonis. So guys, so much. So okay, so the part of the Mediterranean and all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. We're gonna get to the kasha, guys. We'll get to the kasha in a second. Let's just understand. Okay, here's the teretz. You have this picture, right? You have the whole Mediterranean Sea. This is Eretz Yisrael. Penny, that's okay. You have over here. Here's Eretz Yisrael, my hand, and parallel to that, going all the way this way, like Rabbi Yehuda, you would go ahead and you would have to say b'fanei neftam. You would not have to, because it's Eretz Yisrael. Anything above or anything below in the sea, you would have to. So it's very strange, guys. If you're over here in a boat, you'd have to say b'fanei neftam. You could be far away over here, you don't have to. It becomes very strange. It has nothing to do with distance. It has to do whether you're contained within Eretz Yisrael or not. So if you're over here, close to Eretz Yisrael, but above the equator of the line, you'd have to say. But if over here, even over here, since it's parallel to Eretz Yisrael, you would have to say. So the boat is over here. Loi Rabbi Yehuda, you don't have to say. Loi Techachamim, no. It's this area over here. And since you're far away from that area, that imaginary line that you saw in the chart, you would have to say Fanei Nechtam. Let's see, finish up. Rabbanan, high gavul my overlay. What do they do with the extra gavul? They know it for the islands. That you would think that the islands, that even the island that's within that imaginary line, you would not have to say. You would have to say b'fanei neftab, because the gavul is maybe the coastline itself. Kamash Malan, that any island in that imaginary line would be considered Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yehuda Nasan like Tzricha, he doesn't need a pasuk for Nasan. Okay, he does, but you have the teretz. Okay, now one of the questions over here is kind of funny. Is so what's going over here? If you're telling me like Rabbi Yehuda You're going all the way that distance. That means when in Italy, you chayv Trumas Amaisa. Cyprus, I mean, anything that's in that area, right? Going all the way, right? So let's see Taisus. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer, Kosher Keneged Eretz Yisrael, Shol Rabbeinu Peter. The Reb Tani doesn't come often. Shol Taisus Chesam and Aleph. Shol Reb Peter or Peter the Rabbeinu Tam. Vizman Hazeh. Now they lived in the Middle Ages, guys, in the 11th century, or 12th century. The Vizman Hazeh. The Schai of Rabbi Yehuda b'Maiseh Shanu b'Marava Shel Eretz Yisrael. That was the end. That's what he asked. That's what's bothering you guys. The Hoshiv, the like Kaim like Rabbi Yehuda. No pass like Rabbi Yehuda. He's way out, right? Aval Kosha, Rabbi Yehuda Haya Makeh b'Chol Eretz Yisrael Shadak Yonis Shekulim Haya b'Kiyin Lishma Ashedim Mitzuyin the Kaimoi Shein Tzarach Leim B'Fanei Nichtav. In other words, no, this is the kasha of the uncle yesterday. In other words, what does one have to do with the other? The guy, you can be living, I just gave you the case. You can be living right, according to Yehuda, right in the border on top. And you're going to tell me not. And all the way over there, you know for sure there's certain, like Kivshu Hakol Oile Bavel. They didn't capture the whole land. In other words, fellas, the Kedusha Rishayna Kitchel Shaita V'lei Kitchel Lasalavai. Meaning the first time Yeshua captured the land, it wasn't forever. Kedusha got Eretz Yisrael got its kedusha the second time when Ezra came, and Ezra wasn't Mekadosh his land, so there's nothing to talk about. There's even you're going to hold like Rabbi Yehuda that is the Eretz Yisrael. It would not be chayvim Trumas Maisa because the Oile Bavel didn't go ahead and they weren't makdish this land. So that's a more lumdish way out. Inami could appear b'kuntris the Cholsha Keneged Eretz Yisrael Hainu Kol Hayom Shekeneged Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't mean all the body. It means Kol Hayom Agadol, only the water. We're not speaking about all the land until the Atlantic Ocean, which would be all of Europe, whatever that's parallel. But we're speaking dafka about what the nas and that idea. Okay, so if you drachim, it's an interesting places. You have few drachim how to deal with this issue, so it gives us a parallel. But the bottom line is you have a teretz to the stira in the crisis. Svina that comes from Chutzlar, Svina that comes from Eretz Yisrael. The one that comes from they were speaking about one that's in the middle of the Mediterranean Ocean, Mediterranean Sea. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you would not have to say b'fanei nechtam. According to the Chachamim, you would. Okay. Rabbi Meir Omer, Akko ker Eretz Yisrael. Akko is like Eretz Yisrael le'inyan Gitin. It's not, so, and meaning that Akko. He argued on the Tanakama, right? Rabbi Yehuda, who said Akko was Rabbi Yehuda who said it, that Akko Rabbi Yehuda said that Akko is considered a chutzlaretz. Akko is the northernmost border of Akko. It has the din of suffering. Akko has the din of suffering. Now, a little hakdama to the next sugya. There's a machloikis throughout Shas where the kivish yochid shmei kivish aloi shmei kivish. When Bnei Yisrael went into Eretz Yisrael proper, B'mei Yeshua, they went into Eretz Yisrael proper. Why don't you move over, Avrami? Sit over there in the Yehuda's chair. So it was a mitzvah. Everyone, you had 600,000 people. Everyone went to war. It was for everybody. That was a Milchemes mitzvah. That kibush, whatever they captured, had a din of Eretz Yisrael. What about David, who captured land that he wanted to expand Eretz Yisrael? That's called kibush yachid, the kibush of an individual, not the tzibur. If it's shmei kibush, it has a din of Eretz Yisrael. In loy shmei kibush, it doesn't have a din of Eretz Yisrael. One of the lands that David conquered was Aram Tzeva, known by the Gemara as Syria. It's an area probably in Syria or around Syria, that area over there. So what halacha status does that have vis-a-vis get, vis-a-vis Trumas and Maisa, vis-a-vis Tumas Eretz Ha'amim, things that, in other words, chilukim between Eretz Yisrael, what status does it get, that land that David captured? Good? And that's the discussion now. Says the Gemara. I maybe get Medina, what am I doing? I turned the page. Tanabanan. The Shleisha Drachim, I skipped. Tanisura, may I'm Akko carry Yisrael Gitin in Lavadim Loi, right? Gitin in Lavadim Loi, because in Surya, the Merachka Tuva. What? We're going to see in a second. Linyan avodim, freeing avodim. Right? I think I just skipped. I skipped. If someone sells his eved to Surya, okay, now you're not supposed to go ahead and free your eved Kanani. If you go ahead and sell him to Chutz La'aretz, the deal goes through. However, the new owner has to free him because you went ahead and you were mevatel him for the mitzvahs say of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. So if you sell him to Chutz La'aretz, you have to free him. What happens if you sell him to Surya, which is a Shaila, which we left that little piece of information there. So now, Amalahu, so Rav Meir said, Tanisua, Rav Meir Omer, Aku Eretz Yisrael Legitin. Legitin in it's considered Lavadim Loi. But if you would sell your Eved in Aku, it would not be considered Eretz Yisrael. It would be considered Chutz La'aretz, and he would go free. The Kol Shekain Surya Demarach Ketuva, which is a greater distance away than Aku. So in the Paisha the Shaila, when it comes to Eretz Surya and Eretz Yisrael, in Avodim, it's considered Chutz La'aretz. Why? You'd have to free the Eved. You have to free the Eved. But no, the Kedusha, I mean, again, you're telling me Akko, which is Eretz Yisrael, the Indian Gitin, meaning it's closer to Eretz Yisrael. And again, certainly the farther away you get, the less chance it has of Eretz Yisrael. But the whole Shaila is predicated upon what? If the Indian Avodim Akku is not Eretz Yisrael, so certainly, and Akku is Chayiv, I would assume it's Chayiv and Shumas Maisa, so that's farther away not. Tanabana. B'shleisha drachim, since we're digression, we'll continue to digress. Tanabana. B'shleisha drachim, shabsa surah l'Eretz Yisrael, b'shleisha l'chutz l'Eretz. 3 ways it's like what? It's like Eretz Yisrael, and 3 ways it's like chutz l'Eretz. Simin is Av Bar Ra. So Afra is Tamei Chutz La'aretz. The ayin stands for what? That it's the Afra, the dirt is Tamei Chutz La'aretz. Remember, they were goyza on tourist Eretz Amen. That what they were goyza. And V'amoicher Abdei L'Sura. If someone sells his evet to Surah, Kemoicher B'Chutz La'aretz. That's the base in Avdoi, the base of Avdoi. Maybe get Misura. Someone brings a get Mesura. Maybe b'chutz la'aretz. You have to say b'fanei nechtam, and that's the base. I guess in Avda. Again, I don't know what the base is there. Maybe. U'shleish l'Eretz Yisrael chayeves b'maisu b'shviyas. Right? It's chayev in maisa and shviyas. The ratio is the ratio of maisa. Eretz Yisrael. Va'roitza likones lo b'tayra nichnis. That's the ratio of roitza. You want to go in there? You can answer the Marz against a kasha. You told me it's Matama, now you told me you can go in B'Taira. How do you accomplish that? And finally, the last thing, the kuf, V'Hakaina Sada B'Surya, anyone buys a field in Surya, Amidays, is Kikoina B'Parvari Yerushalayim. It's like you're buying on the outskirts of Yerushalayim, some of the suburbs, the outskirts of Yerushalayim, meaning it has a din of Eretz Yisrael, which is strange. Okay, it will explain each one of these things. Yes?
It has to be either this or this.
Again, it's not. It's yes, yesh. It's yesh yesh. In other words, it has. It's not totally. We're gonna see each one. We're gonna go ahead and explain each one. Okay, going over each one now. Kesavar kibush yachid shmei kibush. Okay, why are you chayiv in Maisa? Why are you chayiv in Maisa? Because kibush of a yachid shmei kibush. So since David's conquering gave it kedusha, it's chayiv in Shumas Maisa. That would explain that. Good. One second. Notice it didn't explain the first 3 things, guys. You know why? Because it's Pashit is Chutz La'aretz. Pashit is Chutz La'aretz, correct? You don't have to speak. In Svara, you think it's Chutz La'aretz. Why would we be chayiv in Shumas Maisa? Because now you're telling me that you're chayiv that it has a din of Eretz Yisrael. Now, if it has a din of Eretz Yisrael, then and you can go in the Taira, you just told me it's Afris Tameh. And for the Gemara, B'shida Tevu Migdal. Guys, we had this in Masechta Nazir. Remember, if a Nazir goes into a base Olam in a Shida Tevu Migdal, right, in a box, and we had the Shaila was in Eretz Amim, you have the land is Tameh, Mago Masa. Is the Avir Tameh or not? If you hold the Avir is Tameh, you would not be able to go into a Shida Teva Migdal according to Rabbi, because Rabbi holds oil zorik, an oil that's moving, loy shmei oil. It's not considered an oil. Since it's moving, it's not considered an oil. So even though you have a physical barrier to stop from the airspace, nonetheless, that it's not considered a physical barrier. That would be the reason. So ever the Gezerah was only on Eretz Ha'amim. They were geyser on the offer of Eretz Ha'amim in Syria, but not on the airspace. And therefore, since they weren't geyser on the airspace, you would be able to nichnas b'shida teva migdal because they weren't geyser on the airspace. So that's what the Gemara says. One more time. Read the Gemara. You said the office tamei. After the Gemara b'shida teva migdal. The Tanya hanichnas teretz ha'amim. Someone goes into teretz ha'amim b'shida teva migdal. Rabbi mitama because oil zorik leishmei oil, and therefore there's no hafsaka in the airspace. Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda mitaher. Bafilu Rabbi who says Yatamei loikom tamei ela beretz ha'amim. The gazru al gusha v'alavira because they were geyser sai on the gush, the ground itself, v'alavira in the airspace. Abul Surya al gusha gazru, the gezerah only extended to the land itself. Al avira like gazru, on the avid they were not geyser, on the avid they weren't geyser, and therefore you'll be able to go nichnas b'shida teva migdal. And finally, v'koyin sada b'Surya, someone who acquires land in Syria is going to Barvarve Yerushalayim, like the suburbs of Yerushalayim. Lamai Hilchasa. Now, obviously, it can't be Le'inyan. You already told me. What do you mean? It's like Yerushalayim. Says Gemara that what shekois v'nalav Amrav Sheishas Leimar shekois v'nalav Oinoi v'afilu b'Shabbos. You could write a shtar mechira even on Shabbos. There's a mitzvah to get land that goyim own away from goyim. Ad kedei kach, that even on Shabbos, where you're not supposed to write or make kinyanim, you could. Hang in there. Hang in there. Don't comment right away. You could. Now, what's the heta? You can't write on Shabbos, for sure not. Says the Gemara. What's the reason you could do this? Kidei Rava, like Rava, Kidama Rava. The Shabbos al ketaitach, Kidama Rava. I'm a loivet kechavim v'isa. Amir la'akum. So in other words, you get a Goyish lawyer. It's like a Hashem's joke, right? Instead of a Jewish lawyer, you get a Goyish lawyer. The Afagav Damir la'ovid kechavim shvus, even though it's us the Rabbanon, Mishum Yishev Eretz Yisrael like Gazer Rabbanon. So that's what it means. If you have a chance to be koina, get rid of a goy in Syria, it has the same din of getting rid of a goy in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore you'll be permitted to go ahead and on Shabbos facilitate a kinyan. Kanas. A kanas. It's not enough. It's kanas. In other words, le'inyan that it's not Eretz Yisrael. It is Eretz Yisrael. It's not Eretz Yisrael. It's in Eretz Yisrael. It's not Eretz Yisrael. Well, if you learned the halacha, he's not going to buy it, but this is the halacha. Okay, so let's go over it again. So see things. The af is tamei, like chutz la'aretz, because they were geyser on what, but only on the gush, not on the avir. Because again, it has a din of chutz la'aretz. Right? Maybe get me Surya, maybe mechutz la'aretz, because it's bringing chutz la'aretz. They don't have to explain that. It is chutz la'aretz. However, and three ways it's like Eretz Yisrael. One of the three ways it's like Eretz Yisrael is chayeves b'maisa b'shviyas, because like Eretz Yisrael, because kibush yachid shmei kibush. But basically, konisla v'tayra nichtas shidav teva migdal, because they weren't guys on the airspace. But konis sada b'surya, you kind of in front of Yerushalayim, and therefore you have a chance for a guy to buy it from a guy. You can even go ahead and do it on Shabbos. Tan Rabbanan. Evet shehevi gitoi, an evet brings his get. He brings his get. The cost of boy, and it's written in the get, atzmecha, yourself, unachasai, and my property, kunuyalach. So he brings his get. He says, b'fonei nichtam, b'fonei nechtam. And the get, guys, this is a get shechur. There's a very famous Gzeira Shava that you should familiarize with. It says, the chas of law sefer krisis. It says by an eved, v'chupsalai nitin law. Law, one of the more famous Gzeira Shavas in Shas, we equate an eved kanani to an isha. Just like an isha's get, you have to say b'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechtam. So to the get shechra, the get that feeds an eved, you have to say b'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechtam. So this person's bringing a get, and it says two things: A, that he's free, and B, he's getting the nechasim b'matana. and that is getting the chasam matana. Now, what's the halacha? Nechasai atzmai kana, he himself is kana. Nechasim loy kana, but nechasim is not kana. Meaning, he's not kana until he's mekayim the shtar. The chiddush of get is mishum iguni kilber rabbanon, that you do not require two eidim to be mekayim the shtar. We wanted to make it easier for a woman to get married. So if the Baal would come in ma'arer, we don't believe the Baal. Why? Because we saw Machlekes Rashi and Tosfos. According to Tosfos, of course, we give this shliach power, like to eidim. According to Rashi, we're going to ask him, he's not going to be worried on nafshe, he's going to check it out, because he's going to, so we know for sure, since he's going to check it out well, that the Baal, is not going to come, because he knows not to fool around with him. So that's by regarding the Eved, by the Isha. It's for who I did by the Eved. Good. Now, what about being kaina a matana, a kinyan matana? He's giving me a gift. It's a shtar. Any other shtar, you need to aid him. So Memela, to free himself without kiyam, that's not a problem. We believe the guy. But vis-a-vis the matana, that you need to aid him mekayim, and therefore it's not kaina. If he does bring aidim, he'll be kaina. If he does bring aidim, guys, he will be kaina. But until he brings the aidim, he's not kaina. Look at Rashi, guys. Atzmai kaina. The neman hu al shichruroi loy mar b'fani nechtav vein tzarich eidei l'kaimai nechasim loykana the boy eidim kishar kiyam shtaris. He needs eidim like other shtaris. So it doesn't mean that he's never be kaina, meaning he can't be kaina based upon his report of b'fani nechtav, because the shtar matana needs what? To eidim. Guys are good? So that's the halacha. Now, based upon that, we have a kasha. Here's the following. He brings a get, and it says, Kol nechasai kanuya lecha. Mahu. What's the din? It doesn't say atzmecha. It just says, all my property you get. Good? Now, he's himself, and he gets all the property. Now, what are you going to tell me here? There's two ways to learn the shaila. If you don't say palgin and dibura, if you don't say we split it up, then we're going to believe him, and the mela, he's going to get the property too. But if you say palgin and dibura, that there's two things, there's him, and then there's the property, then it'll be the same thing as above. Let's see Rashi. Rashi explains the shaila. Kol nechasei mahu. Mi aminan atzmecha b'nechasei trei diburininu. Do we view them as two separate entities? Aval kol nechasei, even the bechad dibura asilei shechur nechasim kidekor, and did the shikra of himself and matnachina the kaimon the kamon a curse of kon nechasim the avda yoytz ben chayrin shuk bechal nechasim hilkach imehimnen ahai mehimnen ahai. If we believe him on the shikra, we'll believe him on the other part. The loy palgina dibura. We don't say palgina dibura. I dilma palgina. In other words, in this case, palgina will be a chumra vis-a-vis the eved. It'll be a kula vis-a-vis the eved. So what do we say over here? Do we say we believe him on the property, on himself, but we don't believe him on the property? Or do we say we believe him on both? Or we say we don't believe him on either? You could say those are three possibilities, right? Says the Gemara. In that scenario, what's the halacha? Amalei, so Amar Abaya, mitoich shekoina atzmai, koina nechasim. Since he acquires himself, he acquires the property. In other words, we don't say alginan. Amalei Rava, bishleima atzmai likni midi dehavi gerisha. That b'fani nichtav does the job. Elan nechasim loy likni midi dehavi kiyashtaris ta'alma. In other words, obviously, how can he be believed on that? So Hadam Abaya, okay, again, Abaya is stuck in not saying palginon. So if you're not saying palginon, the matter. If the evid's free, the chasm is his, and if the chasm is not his, then the evid's not free. Amalei Rava bishleim in the chasm likni midi davi kim shtaris alma. Alatzre likni midi davi aget isha. Ela Amar Rava, what do you have to say? Echad zev v'echad atzmai kaina nechasam leikana. Echad zev, whether you said atzmacha nechasai. Kol nechasai. We'll say palginon, and Bez Hashem tomorrow we'll continue the sugya of palginon. But Bez Hashem, I'm going to say shir in the morning, guys. The Seder Hayom is we're going to say shir in the morning, and then tomorrow night Bez Hashem at 12 a.m. At 12 a.m. we'll say another shir.
They'll hold one day.
We'll hold 1 hour. Anyway, we're learn Bez Hashem Daf, and I'd like to chaza upstairs. We got the upstairs. I'd like to chaza. We can maybe start from Gitin, and we'll learn a little Rus, and hopefully we'll make it through the night as much as possible. See, everyone's invited.
Have a good